Look, Mindfreak were able to get a map. That was very early on in the season. Chrono Dota had changed out, etc., etc. You know, things have changed here for the Drop Bears, but I think they're very comfortable now.
Yeah, I would say that they are comfortable. Last week, though, a couple of the maps did actually go to overtime or into the time bank against Athletico, so that may give you some cause for hope here for Ground Zero. Now, Jungle Jazz low early on in the piece, and CKM straight onto the Farah. Not looking like a great start for Ground Zero at all. I mean, I was trying to sort of ramp up into that one, but it really started before I was expecting it to, and I think that was the same case for Ground Zero. Well, because that fight is over straight away.
The point's not even unlocked yet, Jordan, and Ground Zero have been reset.
Yeah.
And CKM going to be coming out on the Farah. At least there's a little bit here to deal with that. Dowsu on the Ana. We saw on Monday how the Ana could at times be a reasonable counter to deal with the Farah. Let's see what Ground Zero do. Whether it works for them.
Yeah, well, the thing for me here is that I mean, if you're a Sydney Drop Bears player, you probably watched that Blank game between Ground Zero and Blank. You recognize the issue that Ground Zero had against a composition like this. Dubois does manage to get one back onto Huss, which is important, but even still, is the fight going to go the way of Ground Zero? They have actually capped the point over.
They did,
That's a nice hack, very nice hack.
They did pretty well. No one really wanted to contest it at all. It kind of felt like the Drop Bears were happy to let them take it, assuming that they would be able to come back on and retake it relatively quickly. However, with Titawat going down, Jordan, it makes life very tough. And yes, the EMP is available. It's a good EMP as well. It hits 5 out of 6, and with Jungle Jazz only being on 30% of his ultimate, there's no way that sound barrier was going to come out anyway. So the recapture now in progress, but Titawat is going to go down again to Oily. So Ground Zero actually now ahead of the Sydney Drop Bears, but going to get the nano boost. I guess trying to stagger this, going to use that opportunity just to buy them a little bit more free time as well, with Shoyo going to get picked up there in the process. So, you know, probably another 10-15% for free here for Ground Zero. And to be fair, they're not looking that bad, but I suspect the Sydney Drop Bears sitting here going, it's okay.
Well, excellent work from Ground Zero, though, to force Sydney Drop Bears off that DPS composition so late in the game. EMP out now from Locust.
They need to follow it up with Pix. Well, they don't need to follow it up at all because the Drop Bears are going to drop off the side of the map.
Literally reset that before anyone deep died.
Yeah.
Look, for Ground Zero, the reason I say it's great for them to force Sydney Drop Bears off that team composition is that it's put them in a position now where Sydney Drop Bears probably don't have time to charge ultimates. They just need to win the drive fight. I think Ground Zero actually should have this map now in the bag.
We'll
this
see.
round, I should say, this round.
Yes, well, that's quite a difference, obviously, but you say that, Jordan, we're up to 90%. The Drop Bears are going to make an effort here to get onto the point. The EMP is going to come out. It's going to capture Oily there. Bust as well. But looks like the Primal Rage will be popped. Sound barrier coming out from Jungle Jazz as well. And with the Kraken going down, overtime ticks in. And, well, Ground Zero is going to be able to find the first point.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Well done.
Very good stuff. And they were able to counteract what Sydney Drop Bears was doing. And that's the really important thing to be able to do on a GOATS composition against the DPS composition, because it really does then put the team that's playing the DPS composition in a weird, awkward position. Like, do we continue to play this even though it's not working? Or do we force off onto the GOATS comp, which is traditionally the stronger composition, but do it so late that we're not really going to be able to get our footing in this particular round?
Can I ask, did it actually not work, or did they just not contest the point and then they just kept getting picked for some reason?
No, there was a couple of fights there that it was quite obvious that Ground Zero fairly comfortably won. Even though, you know, an EMP was out or a Rocket Barrage was out for Sydney Drop Bears, Ground Zero played around it quite nicely, and they forced the fights in positions that weren't as favourable for Sydney Drop Bears as they could have been. Very nicely done from Ground Zero. But now we're going to go back to square one. Standard stuff out on both sides. It's the mirror match. To round number 2.
The shield for Bus already taking some free damage, so that's going to make life just a little bit tough. Titawat going to get aggressive. Oily about to get demacked as well. Need to be very, very careful. Baby Diva there now. And potential now for them to follow up with a little bit more. The point's bound to unlock, and Ground Zero not in the ideal spot. It's a 1-for-1 trade for Reinhardt. But with the Kraken finding one more, you would expect Ground Zero going to have to fall back. Plus finds a couple of free picks as well. And Drop Bears onto the point. To be fair, like they started off last round as well.
Really felt like a matter of time when Oily got D-Mech there before Sydney Drop Bears was really going to be able to overwhelm Ground Zero. Without the defense matrix, there's going to be so much free damage going into Ground Zero. Sydney Drop Bears obviously pull ahead as a result. Shoyo does have the self-destruct now available. Huss nearly there for the Graviton Surge.
Bus going to get booted to the side, actually almost might go down, will go down. Earthshatter comes through, quite a good Earthshatter to be honest. Dowsu with the Transcendence trying to keep the rest of the team alive. Jungle Jazz now the target. Shoyo will secure that kill as well, and Ground Zero the fall back to their spawn.
They almost don't get back into their spawn quite safely either. This is looking like a bit of a clinic being put on by Sydney Drop Bears as soon as they go back to the GOATS composition. Ground Zero really struggling now.
I guess the problem, Jordan, with forcing the Drop Bears back onto GOATS is that then the Drop Bears are playing GOATS.
That's right. Graviton Surge early, and that's actually going to split everyone up.
I'll show you underneath as well. This could be big. Finds 2. Peterwatt had found 2 as well. And it feels like Ground Zero have not been in this point at all right now. Already up to 65%. Getting very close to a round win here for the Drop Bears.
It's taken Ground Zero a long time to charge those ults, but now they are starting to, I guess even in a sense, pull ahead economically speaking. We've got the Grav Surge combo, more or less, for Ground Zero in this fight. They've got all the support ultimates that they need. Rally comes out to enable the fight to begin. Locust needs to hit a good grab here, otherwise, I mean, I don't see much chance for Ground Zero.
Yeah, they need to use these ultimates to the best ability, but you can see an Earthshatter as a counter here to that grab, actually going to put Ground Zero on the back foot. Oily and Duboy both looking a little bit unhealthy. Self-destruct through from Oily, going to get the remake in there, so that's definitely going to help. Peterwatt down to about 30% HP, will get shield bashed as well. Finally goes down, Huss with the grab. Sydney Drop Bears need to follow this up with more damage. You can see that Ground Zero didn't really have anything to counter it, and as a result, they will take a fair bit of free HP damage as well. Dowsu, Bus both picked up. The overtime should tick away. The Drop Bears looking to grab this point as well, Jordan. Well, it's going to be one apiece, but very convincing, wasn't it, really?
It certainly was. Jungle Jazz doing his best to keep that ticker going. But in all of that last fight, really, you looked at Ground Zero and you thought, well, they have a great opportunity here. Locust hits a good grab, but the self-destruct isn't quite there yet in time, so they don't get that combo really working. And then both of the support ultimates come down from Ground Zero. In that case, then they only trade 1-for-1, which is absolutely not good enough. And while all of that is going on, Shoyo is just bullying the back line of Ground Zero. He literally ran at Duboy, took him down, then ran at Dalsu, took him down as well, and no one from Ground Zero did anything about it. And then Sydney Drop Bears ends up winning pretty cleanly as soon as Huss's grab comes up as well. There's no support ultimates for Ground Zero. So, I don't know, just a bit of a lack of value from the ultimates there, I think, out from Ground Zero. Still with a good opportunity here to win a map. All it takes is one round on the board. And if you win the first fight here, that's really going to be a big bonus. But already, Jungle Jazz gets knocked down low. So, Ground Zero are going to be forced to play a bit more passively.
Yeah, well, it's 2 from 2 for Ground Zero losing the first fight, Jordan. Sydney Drop Bears very eager to make that 3 from 3. And with us going down, it's pretty much guaranteed here. So that's the problem that Ground Zero have to deal with. You're always at a deficit if you lose that first dry fight to the Drop Bears. And they're hard enough to beat as it is, clearly, let alone when they have that ultimate advantage.
I don't know what it is, but Sydney Drop Bears just seem to be able to do so much more damage to Ground Zero before the fight even starts. It's like Ground Zero is bleeding 50% of their HP on 2 of 3 of their members, and Sydney Drop Bears are just full HP. So whether it's just Sydney Drop Bears playing a little bit more coordinated behind that shield and not giving the opportunities over, or Sydney Drop Bears making the opportunities for themselves, catching Ground Zero out of position, I don't know. Whatever the case though, it's a fantastic result. In
prime position here as well to get out an Earthshatter. Question is, will the timing be right? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, Bus with just to the side, Dowsu forced to counter with the Transcendent. Bus throws out an Earthshatter of his own. And with Bertlog down, maybe Ground Zero in a position. Huss with the grab, looking to follow up with some damage as well to 1-for-1 trade. Briggs go down. But Oily will be D-Mech. Jungle Jazz finds Peterwatt somehow. The sound barriers come through. Also Ground Zero in prime position.
Yeah, 50% already built up though by Sydney Drop Bears, so this is really a must-win fight for Ground Zero. And that stall, that stagger is still going on to the point here from Sydney Drop Bears. Oily will D-Mech Shoyo and finish him off as well. But all in this while, of course, Sydney Drop Bears are losing this fight. The timer is still ticking in their favour.
That grab will go their way, holding the Drop Bears just outside the control point. Juboy going to follow this up with a little bit of damage as well. So Ground Zero now sitting on 3 ultimates. A Kraken going to make that 3 apiece in just a moment. But that wasn't so bad, to be honest, and I think it was probably the first opportunity that Ground Zero actually had, Jordan, to bring things back across their way.
A couple of really critical pins from Bus in the mix there. If they don't get the opening pick onto Bertlock, could have been a different story. Bus, again, looking to go aggressive, knows that he has the Transcendence available on Dalsu.
Yeah, the Drop Bears with Dalsu. Sorry, the Drop Bears with Grab, Dalsu to counter. Bertlock going to go down as well. Now the Drop Bears, not as healthy as they could have been. And did that sound barrier go out, Elfishguy? I didn't see it.
Well, Bertlock got booped off the edge by Jungle Jazz. So I don't know if that was... I don't know if we missed something there and he actually got booped while he was beating. I didn't hear the beat. But
no, neither did I. So, Jordan, right now, this is about as close as Ground Zero will get, as good an opportunity as they will get to picking up a map from the Drop Bears.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in prime
catching
position.
Up. They've got ults. They have actually got a bit of an advantage in the ult economy.
Yep.
You have the sound barrier here, which Sydney Drop Bears are lacking. Dalsu and Kraken are pretty close to each other in terms of Transcendence. You know, maybe it's only 1 or 2 more fights here that Ground Zero need to win.
Well, this is the first one. They're going to get knocked down there, but the beat is dropped by Jungle Jazz. Tito, the first one to go down. Self-destruct from Shoyo. Needs to find some picks. That won't be the case. Shoyo quite low as well. Potential to get D-Mac here. Dalsu sitting on Transcendence as well.
No, Shoyo.
Oh dear, Dalsu goes down. Look, to be fair, Oily brings one back. Oily brings back 2. And up to 90% right now, Jordan. Could this be the second map that the Sydney Drop Bears lose this season?
You have to think so. Looking at what Ground Zero have available to them, the only real caveat is that there is a grab for Haas. But Oily somehow finds Bertlock.
No.
The shadow is good onto CKM.
It was a good shatter, but you can see obviously that barrier coming out from Haas. Going to keep Tita-Watt alive for now. Bertlock, CKM both down. Tita-Watt low.
That's it,
at
surely.
99%, Jordan. Oily finds one more. The Sydney Drop Bears looking to drop Li Zhang Tao. Ground Zero about to be 1-0 up. This is huge.
It's massive. That's the second map exactly of Sydney Drop Bears have lost this season. And it's going to be one on the board for Ground Zero to start the day off. Now we have a bit of a series on our hands.
We
because
do.
It looked like Ground Zero, you know, when it went back to Goats v Goats, it seemed as though they weren't really going to be able to stand up to Sydney Drop Bears today. But they're in that third round. We do get a bit of a better idea of exactly how things are going to play out, and that actually favoured Ground Zero. Now, I will say there was a few clutch, sort of critical individual plays out from the Ground Zero players, but it's great to see that they're able to do that. They're able to capitalise on that as well, you know? The worst thing is, when you get an advantage, you just sort of let it slip by the wayside and allow Sydney Drop Bears back into the game. But Ground Zero don't do that.
Well, that's it. That's what we've been seeing from the Drop Bears time and time again. Anytime, firstly, it's so difficult to get an advantage against them, and when you do, so often, somehow the Drop Bears manage to bring it back across to their side of things to put them back in front. But as soon as Ground Zero were able to take control of the point, they didn't give it up. A number of cut and clutch plays, as you said. And
okay, so where's this beat? I think he actually did get booped off. Yeah, he got booped off, or he got killed during the beat.
Yeah.
You could see him actually using it there.
Yeah, so that's huge. That's a big play. And that's what we're talking about. And these are one of these situations where we've seen so often these are the plays that the Drop Bears make against everyone else. And that is, you know, that little minutia that allows them to get through and maybe win fights that they shouldn't be winning. This time around, it's Ground Zero doing it. And we talked about free maps, Jordan. Could it be a free series here?
Oh, hang on. I'm not so sure I'm ready to go that far.
Look, I haven't bought my ticket to the hype train, but I'm standing outside the ticket box. Or maybe I've just topped up my Opal card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're ready to tap on?
I'm almost ready to tap on, but it's an expensive fare, and I don't want to commit just yet.
We have to tap on the direction of Kings Row, I think, because that's going to be the next map coming out here, Ben. Now, Kings Row, again, it's going to give the opportunity for a lot of GOATS gameplay. I think, for me, Kings Row is one of the better maps in terms of what you can see. Like, you can kind of get a little bit of everything on Kings Row. On the first point, you may typically see a little bit of a DPS composition if the teams are inclined to that. My general feeling out from Sydney Drop Bears and Ground Zero, at least for this matchup, is we're probably going to be seeing a GOATS mirror for the majority. obviously Sydney Drop Bears have shown at times a tendency to go back onto some DPS comps, but certainly Ground Zero do really try to force the GOATs matchup more often than not. Really the only variation that they do like to play is the Sombra GOATs, and even then that's a very rare occurrence.
Well, for me, Kings Row has been one of those maps where we've seen opportunity for upsets. Even if it hasn't come through, a lot of the games have been very close, and a lot of the times this has been the closest of all of the maps that we've seen. So serious potential here for Ground Zero to go through to halftime on a series point, but a lot of work still to be done.
Yeah, this is where Sydney Drop Bears will wake up a little bit. I think, you know, normally they don't like to lose more than one map, as we've seen in multiple series. The iterations of the Sydney Drop Bears losing maps, they don't really last too long.
You can see the Diva and Diva fight up there between Oily and Shoyo. The difference is that one of them has Zaya on the high ground as well to help out should they need. Ground Zero taking a little bit of free damage. They got into the point, but will be forced to back off.
Again,
I guess heal up.
It's that initial fight that you always see the first real significant damage go in favor of the Sydney Drop Bears. Oily at half HP. They're again engaging a fight at a deficit, but they do find
Tita goes down. He sort of gets caught out in the middle of things here, Jordan.
He was isolated.
Yeah, he certainly was, and that's not really how you want to be playing that Winston tank. Now a Kraken goes down, and this is not looking good for the Drop Bears. Ground Zero on the point. They need to make the most of this. They're probably not going to get a chance to catch out Tita again like they just did there. Oily doing some serious work.
Yeah, they do look like they're going to make advantage of it as well, Ben, as I don't see Sydney Drop Bears being able to get in here and recontest, particularly without Tita Watt. That's really not what you want when you're playing Winston. You cannot afford to get stuck next to the Reinhardt. The real reason you're playing the Winston is for that mobility. If you're not putting it to good use, then obviously the Reinhardt will outdamage you over time. Anyway, Ground Zero, pretty quick cap up, puts him in a good position here. Lots of ults available.
Tita Watt going to change off for second phase as we head towards checkpoint B, and going to get aggressive here with this Reinhardt as well. Team, of course, there to back him up. You can see Ground Zero about to have 6 ultimates available. The grab comes out first, though, from Haas. Locust throws out 1 to contest. Everyone's still very healthy, not much damage coming through. Self-destruct from Shoyo. Earthshatter as well. Locust goes down. The beat's being dropped, but maybe a little bit too late there to save Locust. Ground Zero now going to be down a player. Ground Zero have invested all 6 ultimates, and they're going to lose the fight. Yeah,
it really looked like it was going to be a good fight as well for Ground Zero, because in that Graviton Surge exchange, a Kraken actually used his Transcendence where Dalsu didn't. So once the Graviton Surge is faded, then Dalsu throws his out. But the unfortunate scenario was, I think it was Locust got picked off by the self-destruct of Shoyo, and that tipped the fight in the favour of Sydney Drop Bears.
Minus 5,000% chance of victory once you lose your Zarya in a fight, if you recall. So those are real stats, by the way. The Sydney Drop Bears getting very aggressive here on defense.
Well, they know that they can't afford to. Huss has again built another grab up.
Maybe not expecting Huss to have this grab already. And look at this, there he goes, throws it out, can follow this up should they need to with an Earth Shatter. Bit of damage going down, Bust the first to fall. Dalsu sitting on Transcendence again. Whoops, excuse me.
Hello?
Bit of a burp in the middle of that one.
Yeah, okay.
Mate.
Just try and cover it up. How old are you, Ben?
It was definitely a burp. Go back and have a look. That's what you get for drinking too much energy drink before you cast. Anyway. Ground Zero, they've still got 3 minutes, Jordan, which is a lot of time. It feels like we've been on the second phase of this game for a while now. They haven't got very far.
No, they haven't. Locust has another grab now, but look at Bertloff's position, just having a bit of a peek around, looking for a nice boop here. Someone out of position, but he has to rejoin his team. Everyone getting a little too low.
Earthshatter comes through, doesn't catch anyone at all by the looks of things. Fast about to have his, however, so this is Ground Zero's opportunity. They can keep everyone alive for just long enough. There comes the grab, not bad. Self-destruct going to come through from Oily as well. Shoyo still sitting on his Transcendence use. Here's the Drop Bears with their self-destruct now. Not going to be successful. 6 alive on both sides, but Bus is quite low. Need to be a little bit considerate there. Great Earth Shatter from Bus just in the nick of time. Following up with damage is Ground Zero. Locust going to DMAX Shoyo. Husk goes down as well. Ground Zero looking finally like they're going to get a fight win.
It's a really nice boop in there as well from Jungle Jazz. Still winnable here for Sydney Drop Bears. They're putting damage in. Or at least not maybe winnable, but stallable.
Yeah.
It's taking a lot of time for Ground Zero to finish them off. Shoyo will definitely be staggered here.
I think Shoyo got back in the mech as well. I'm not sure if that was from the D-mech or from self-destruct. I think the self-destruct was earlier. So obviously that keeps you going just that little bit longer. Heading towards checkpoint B here now with the payload. 122 on the clock. Ground Zero still with, to be fair, a fair bit of time, but the Drop Bears will be able to contest here. And you talked about, I think earlier in the week, Jordan, how this is not a bad place to contest.
Yeah, you'd really like to win it now, though, for Ground Zero and push into phase 3 of the map with that extra time bank.
Throws it in. Nice grab, catches a couple, but not much damage to follow it up. Blast onto CKM. That's what you want to be doing. Dowsu and Bust both on with ultimates. Teetawat and Bertlog has theirs. And that was a very good shatter. Captures 3 or 4 Drop Bears out. The payload should now be able to get pushed towards the second checkpoint here. Well, the third and final phase now available.
Super promising from Ground Zero. I mean, they are looking so much better than we saw in the first couple of weeks. And even last week, I think we're really seeing Ground Zero back on the improve, and they're sort of back to where we saw them at the end of last season, which is fantastic to see. I didn't want to see this team fall apart because of, you know, some issues. Now really giving the challenge to Sydney Drop Bears, but it's time now for Sydney Drop Bears to challenge back because they've rebalanced that ult economy. Bus is low, he'll be dropped straight away. Time for Ground Zero to just disengage. As you see Oily resetting off the map.
See you later. See you later, Oily. You can come back in just a second. So Ground Zero going to reset, as Elfishguy just said. The Drop Bears going to be on the 5 ultimates that really matter with this next fight as well. Ground Zero lagging a little bit behind there, but the payload about half the way to objective C. So Ground Zero are going to be able or needing to push through here, and they are definitely starting to run out of time. So
now Ground Zero again with another opportunity. This time Bus is still alive, which is a big factor. Looks like Jungle Jazz wanted to go for a boot, but the grab comes in anyway.
Self-destruct as well. It looked like it was reasonably timed, but unfortunately not going to find any hits. Grab now from Haas, and the self-destruct from Joe going to drop down right on top. No damage coming out there, unfortunately, for the Drop Bears, but with Locust going down to a Kraken, you think Ground Zero are in a less than ideal situation. Dowsu finds Teetawat, but the DMAC comes through and Bus is also quite low. The Sydney Drop Bears looking much, much healthier, and Ground Zero forced to fall back. So 30 seconds on the clock. They should be able to get back onto the payload, but if they are successful here on King's Row, they will only be able to do it in overtime.
Yeah, all that armor as well for Sydney Drop Bears really gives them a bit of an advantage in that previous fight. Ground Zero didn't really have that luxury. That's faded away now for Sydney Drop Bears. So Ground Zero, we're back to square one. No ultimates here though, so I really fail to see how they're going to make this work against a grab and a trans.
Grab, yeah, that's the one. That's going to capture them off the payload. Maybe close enough to put it into overtime just to get the touchdown. But it's pretty clear here that they're not going to be successful heading towards objective C. They're going to get stopped halfway through, 38.58 meters. Though, Jordan, this is better than what we've seen the majority of teams do this week.
That's 100% right, especially when you consider even not just this week, but the rest of the season, what teams have been able to achieve against Sydney Drop Bears. Typically, they're not even really able to push through first and second. Sydney Drop Bears, I think they'll still be happy with that defense, to be honest, but Ground Zero also have something to defend. And if we go back and look at a couple of weeks ago when Sydney Drop Bears was playing against Order, they really did actually struggle to get that first point of King's Row. Once that first point was knocked over, then they were able to push through fairly quickly because Order didn't actually get past the second point of the map. But I think if Ground Zero can really stall things on point A here, maybe make it a little bit difficult in towards point B, there's always going to be the chance here that they do actually end up going up 2-0 right now. But my gut feeling is that Sydney Drop Bears have done enough on the defense and should be able to knock over this attack fairly comfortably. But I have already been surprised in this series by Ground Zero picking up Li Zhangtao.
So yeah, it's kind of obviously the first part being a control point, though it is sort of favouring the attackers here, isn't it? Because they do have that little bit of a spawn advantage, but it does help. It does feel like there's probably 2 points where Ground Zero can stall this out. Obviously, the first objective, and secondly, as you head towards checkpoint B, is that sort of that last corner, right? We do sometimes see teams able to hold there. But as the spawn points sort of even up.
The hang-up is that if they don't actually defend it on point A or point B, I don't really see that phase C of the map being enough to defend, right? They haven't even really gotten around the corner. Like if you'd gotten around the second corner, you could maybe make an argument. There's a little bit in there for them to defend, but that first corner, that's usually free territory for the attacking side, particularly because it's so close to 100%. Where you would get wiped on that phase B, point B fight.
Yep. 100% agreed, Elfishguy. So the team comp's going to come out looking to be the same. We're going to be running Goats with Sombra.
Yeah, Shoyo's having a look for Oily there, but Oily's just pieced out. Now both teams are aware, of course, that it's going to be a Sombra Goats mirror. Again, not something we see all that often. Juboy throwing the flail up. Maybe seeing if he can spot out Shoyo at all, but no such luck this time. Ground Zero again, fairly unhealthy. Juboy's low, Bus is low. And look at Sydney Drop Airs. They've all got full HP.
They certainly do, and a pretty full Reinhardt shield as well. Locust going to go down early here, Jordan. Bertlog follows up as well. The Drop Airs looking to me like they're going to get the first objective quite easily. And I think the thing that it looks to me is that Ground Zero like to hide behind Bus and that Reinhardt shield very early on in the fight, whilst the Sydney Drop Airs are kind of more aggressive, just throwing out damage. And yeah, exactly. They're dealing damage early, and they're dealing with that shield early. Look how far 4 Shoyo is here, by the way.
Well, that obviously also puts a lot of pressure onto the Reinhardt shield.
Yeah.
And Ground Zero, they haven't been able to establish themselves with any control of this phase B at all. So now they're finally starting to push on forward. So they will get, I would say, 2 defensive fights here if this one doesn't go their way. Depends how much further they let that payload push. Tina Watt gets forced back a little bit, but he now has the shutter.
Yeah, he does. Look at the shield difference already here, Jordan. You can tell the difference between the two. It's Bus who's kind of struggling to keep his up. Will throw out the Earth Shatter, but Tina Watt has thrown out his as well. EMP available, as is the grab in the middle, and Bus the first one down. Oily demanked also. Juboy looking low. Another fight win here for the Sydney Drop Bears. They're going to be sitting on 3 ultis heading into the next fight, getting ever closer to checkpoint B as well.
I mean, this is really just perfect stuff from Sydney Drop Bears. It's not taking them much to knock over Ground Zero. At the very least, Ground Zero will have another defense here on point B. If they can't stall it here, they're not going to be able to stall it anywhere. Locust down low. Maybe a little over-aggression there from Huss and Bertlong. The grab actually comes out from Huss. It's not going to help Sydney Drop Bears pushing on through.
Well, no, I think the grab came out from Locust, right? And
was it?
Yeah, it was quite an odd grab, right?
It was from maybe both? No, it must have been from Locust. Yeah.
It was. It was a white grab that came out and caught them. That caught them out there.
Yeah.
I feel they didn't. You don't expect to get grabbed, right? At that point. So
I think Locust might have expected more Sydney Drop Bears players to be pushing in there.
Yes, it was definitely odd timing.
So in which case, that's really good for Sydney Drop Bears, actually.
The one thing it did allow, though, was Ground Zero to get onto the payload, at least for now.
Well, that's it, right? Yeah. But they don't have grab.
No, exactly.
And Shoyo has EMP.
Well, there's a self-destruct from Oily. Sound barrier coming out as well. And there's your EMP, Jordan. That's what you were talking about.
Shatter!
It counters out what Jungle Jazz have done with the beat. The shatter comes through. Ground Zero dropping like flies. The Sydney Drop Bears going to get this payload moving once again, heading towards checkpoint B here. And once they get here, it is very likely they're going to be able to complete the 3rd phase.
Yeah, particularly with the amount of time that they do have available to them. The only way that Ground Zero wins that last fight is if somehow Dalsu avoids the EMP and gets a really fantastic trance. But not the case. And now Ground Zero really under the pump. They're going to have to take aggressive fights like this, but Bus is so isolated right now. He surely goes down here, and he does.
Once again, Bus going to get picked on there by the Drop Bears. The grab comes out once more, but with Dalsu also down, it's not looking very good here for Ground Zero.
Yeah, got booped off the edge, I think, by Bertlong. Well, Bustle go over onto the Wrecking Ball, and this part of the map, I mean, it does provide opportunities for the Wrecking Ball, but realistically, you'd probably want to be the Reinhardt regardless. Dubois drops. I think this is going to be the last hopes of Ground Zero fading away as well.
Well, they're going to get caught right on top of the payload. Dowsu does use the Transcendence. EMP comes out there from Shoyo, and it's only a matter of time here, Jordan. Looking to me like it's going to be one apiece heading into half-time.
They'll shut it down. We'll lock Dubois onto the ground, and City Drop Bears do grab that third point, which also means that now they're up to one apiece, and a pretty solid performance out from them there. I think the defensive side, it never really got going for Ground Zero.
No.
As soon as they lost point A, they pretty quickly lost control of phase B and then point B. And I mean, obviously we saw into phase C of the map, they didn't have much of an opportunity to defend there. So, look, I think for Ground Zero there, it's really imperative that you start off on the right foot. You win that initial fight on point A. Even if you lose the second fight, then you've kind of built a little bit of an alt economy. It's not going to be as easy for Sydney Drop Bears to roll over you, but it was kind of no brakes on the hype train there for Sydney Drop Bears on Kings Road.
Yeah, it's essentially very, very different the second time around when the Drop Bears got to attack. I think, honestly, a lot of what happened for Ground Zero can be put down to the fact that that Tita Watt was caught out defending point A as Winston. And that, you know, if you go through literally every fight after that, the Ground Zero got caught right at the first corner on the payload for like a minute and a half, and they got caught again heading towards checkpoint B, and then they only just got around the corner in time, and it really was based on the fact that they had so much time bank after getting through the first objective so easily as a result of that one mistake. So reality, I feel like so much of that just comes down to the amount of time they had left over, because they did not win very many fights after the first one.
Well, that's why we go and talk about momentum all the time. If you can keep that momentum, if you can keep putting pressure on the defensive side after winning the initial couple of fights, you can really make yourself in a really easy position to kind of push that payload forward. If you're controlling all areas of the map, you're not allowing the defenders to reset themselves and set up, you know, you don't even really have to fight for positioning at that point. But end of the day, 1-1, it still gives us a pretty good series ahead here when we come back from the break from Horizon Lunar Colony, Junkertown. I think both are looking to be pretty interesting maps. In particular, Horizon Lunar Colony, because again, we're going to probably be forced more so into the Goat's Mirror.
Yeah, excited to see how that one plays out. We're going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, more Overwatch action. We'll see you soon.